The second segment of the show, we're talking to Mr. Bill Purcell, who is a candidate for the mayor of the city of Nashville. And of course, Mr. Purcell, before we had our first commercial break, we were talking about housing and some of the other issues of your campaign. Let's look a little closer at housing, primarily because I think quite recently we read that there were some 50,000 people who, in the city of Nashville and the area, who stood in need of housing, and that there was not enough public housing available, and that in order to do something, the federal government has to, the local government has to take a very active role, and especially I think it was pointed out that the mayor, and as well as newspapers and et cetera, ought to also take a role. Let's talk about housing. It does seem that housing is an issue that is really on the top of a large number of people's minds now.
Well, and I think with good reason. In fact, Mayor Bredesen said very recently that if there was an unmet need during his 2 terms as our mayor, he felt as though it was in this area of housing, and felt as though the next mayor really ought to take a strong stand early on to focus the attention of the larger city on this issue. I think the need is very great here at the moment. The numbers that you set out, I think, ought to surprise many people, but at the same time ought to make them know they need to redouble their efforts in this area. The city has an important role. Clearly, we maintain a large agency, MDHA, which is charged with the responsibility for making sure that housing is available. But what I think we've learned here in recent months is that it's not simply a city function. The city can't by itself, not certainly with public resources, provide for all of the needs. It's got to be a partnership between private individuals, private companies, and in particular banks and other entities that are in a position to provide the financing to give us the wide range, the rich mix of housing that we need. The days when we believed that a concentration of public housing in one part of the city or another are clearly over.
So we're moving away from that.
Absolutely. I think we have a consensus now, as they have in other cities, that was probably never a good policy, but clearly is not a policy now as we enter this new century. The idea of bringing all those people together into places that ultimately became worn out and substandard without any hope of a new and brighter future within the larger community were wrong. What we need to do is provide throughout the whole large county the opportunity for that mix of housing opportunities. There are some among us who will always want to rent. There are many others, however, who will want to share part of that American dream, the dream that we hold so strongly to ourselves. And that dream includes in large measure the opportunity to own your own home, to be in control of your own destiny, to be both responsible for and reap the benefits of good stewardship of your own resources. So as we begin to continue the shrinking and downsizing of these large and massive, in some cases, public housing complexes, we need to stay focused on the reality that we can provide through infill and empty lots, through development in different areas, a mix or range of opportunities for people to live throughout this county based upon where they want to and need to live. At the same time, I think we'll find that's the kind of thing that will hold the population here that's critical to our tax base. There was an article in the paper just today about the fact that while growth remains very strong in the counties surrounding Davidson, we are finding increasingly, particularly among the middle class, that there's a decreasing strength in the growth in that area. In fact, fewer and fewer are choosing to live here. What we're finding is more and more decisions are leading our people to move to counties surrounding Nashville. For the long term, that's not healthy. We need to have a diverse and vibrant city that provides opportunity, it seems to me, for everyone who wants to and who presently does live here. And that's going to require us to stay focused on this housing issue.
You know, as a person who has some experience in the state legislature, what would you say would be the relationship that could be created between the local government and perhaps the state government? And I think you've already indicated that certainly there has to be more private enterprise and et cetera. But also that we do have 2 forms of government here, the state government as well as the local government. Do you think that there can be some kind of partnership, or is there, excuse me, perhaps some kind of partnership that will bring about that relationship in the area of housing?
I think one of the strengths that I have, one of the very special experiences I have, is the fact that I served those 10 years in the legislature. I have seen the examples of the kind of cooperation you're talking about, and that is precisely what we ought to be doing. There is a strong Tennessee Housing and Development Agency that has the resources and expertise that we need. We have at the local level, as I indicated, MDHA. But a mayor with the experiences that I have, I think would be uniquely positioned to be sure that we're collaborating, working together in a way that maximizes the resources of both of those authorities. At the same time, I think a mayor, coming from my experience, understands that we need to use those funds and that knowledge to leverage other and greater resources that are present in the private sector. Bob Corker, who was a leader in our state capitol as Commissioner of Finance and Administration for this governor, Governor Sundquist, was also a leader at the local level in Chattanooga before coming here. And one of the things he points out very strongly is that the way in which they made progress in Chattanooga, strong progress, was by leveraging private funds, private foundation funds, private and individual funds, and then also private banking funds to provide additional a critical mass of money and resources, of mortgage and other lending that allows you to move ahead on a broad front and provide in short order literally thousands of housing units, those thousands of housing units that we need in Nashville as soon as we can get them up.
You know, and I think another issue that that perhaps you would like to discuss has to do with the desegregation order, because I think that in a real sense commitments have been made in reference to the ultimate outcome with the ending of desegregation. And let's have you to sort of speak to those issues and you know, where you would, what you would do in terms of that.
And this is without question an important time for our schools. We have now regained control of our own destiny within the metropolitan Nashville-Davidson County Public Schools, and I think that's a time and a moment for great encouragement. The plaintiffs in that lawsuit, represented by Richard Dinkins and others, understood the need for us to move forward in that way, and I think we all should take great, I think, both pride and have great hope based upon the ability of everyone to come together in federal court and set a direction, set a course. The idea that children will now be able to, by and large, go to school closer to their homes, that they will go to only 3 schools during the course of their career in Nashville. These are major steps forward. The funds and the resources that have been provided to both rehabilitate and provide for new buildings, the whole Jackson Montessori School not far from where we are today, being a very recent example of that, but others, many others, to come online in the next few years. All of that gives me great hope that the goal of a good school for every child wherever they live can be met.
The money has already been appropriated for primarily for this, okay, so there's no idea of having to go back to council to have any of this refinanced.
No, I think the resources.
And let me interrupt for this second commercial break, and I'm sorry, but let me interrupt for this second break, and we'll be back with our